For 6.5 years, he portrayed the heartbroken spouse, the shaky voice on TV, the tears streaming on command. He pleaded with the cameras, "Please, just come home." The public bought it. Journalists consoled him. Neighbors offered prayers. But with every step down those stairs, his shoes echoed on the concrete slab concealing her. His missing wife wasn't gone at all. She lay right beneath his feet. And each frantic appeal to bring her back was delivered while he stood atop her makeshift grave. "I've never laid a hand on her in nearly 30 years of marriage," he insisted. "The most I've done is give her a tight hug, loving her to pieces. One day, my wife will show up or reach out to God. Either way, this will all unravel, and in time, it'll prove I did nothing wrong." Tina Satchwell was 45 when she vanished in March 2017. Born Tina Dingivan on November 30th, 1972, in Fermoy, County Cork, Ireland, she stood at 5 feet 4 inches, with blonde shoulder-length hair and striking blue eyes. A Tweety bird tattoo adorned her chest, and she had a belly-button piercing that her loved ones recognized instantly. Friends and family described her as bright, bubbly, and beautiful, with a warmth that drew people in. Yet her early life was far from simple. Raised by her grandmother, Florence Dingivan, Tina believed Florence was her mother until she was old enough to seek her birth certificate. The truth hit hard. Her biological mother was Mary Collins, whom she'd thought was her sister. Despite the pain, Tina stayed devoted to the grandmother who had nurtured her with affection. Fashion was Tina's true passion. She had an eye for expensive clothes and jewelry, storing hundreds of outfits on racks upstairs in her home, some still with tags attached. She'd buy them, wear them briefly, then resell at car boot sales around County Cork. These weren't just transactions, they were social gatherings where she mingled with regulars. Always impeccably dressed, she'd even coordinate outfits for her Chihuahua, Ruby, to match her own. Her dogs, Ruby and Heidi, plus her parrot Valentine, were the children she never had. Tina was inseparable from her pets. Her deep love for animals harked back to her childhood in Fermoy, where cats and dogs trailed her everywhere. An avid swimmer who adored the beach, she was captivated by the coastal charm of Yohol when she and her husband Richard relocated there in May 2016. Those close to Tina knew she had hidden depths. Outwardly bubbly and outgoing, she was actually quite shy and private. Her GP of nearly 2 decades called her friendly, open, and communicative, with no health issues that could have led to an early demise. She had no recorded mental health problems or psychiatric diagnoses. The 2012 suicide of her brother Tom devastated her, prompting her to adopt Ruby in 2014 as a way to cope with the grief. Tina met Richard Satchwell on March 3, 1989, in Colville, near Leicester, England. She was 17, he was 22. Richard told his brother right away that he'd marry her, calling her his trophy wife, someone far out of his league. They started dating swiftly, and he proposed in October 1989 at Mount Pleasant, overlooking Ullswater. They wed on Tina's 20th birthday, November 30th, 1991, in Oldham, England. But the union came with a price. Richard's family, staunchly anti-Irish, issued an ultimatum: choose them or Tina. He picked Tina and cut ties with his mother forever. None of his relatives attended the wedding. What seemed romantic at first foreshadowed the isolation that would plague their marriage. Richard, a lorry driver from Leicester, was utterly obsessed with Tina. He worshipped her, adored her, and saw her as physically flawless, his beautiful Irish rose. He knew every detail of her body, her measurements, her sizes. He claimed to draw baths for her 7 nights a week, piled with suds, towel her dry, apply baby oil, and even give her pedicures. Yet this devotion hid a sinister side. Tina's half-sister, Lorraine Howard, later testified that Richard was obsessive, possessive, controlling, and just plain strange. He'd criticize every friend Tina made, whittling down her social circle until it was tiny. He demanded to know her whereabouts constantly. Tina confided in Lorraine that she felt imprisoned. She could never escape because he'd track her to the ends of the earth. Their world shrank to just the two of them, precisely as Richard desired. The Satchwells moved from England to Fermoy, County Cork in the early 1990s. In 2016, they sold their Fermoy home and purchased a property at 3 Grattan Street in Youghal for €52,000, settling in that May. The shift further distanced Tina from her family and the Fermoy community, where she was beloved. In Youghal, she was virtually unknown. Neighbours seldom saw her without Richard. Financially, they scraped by on social welfare benefits, with Richard listed as Tina's dependent. Their joint account was perpetually overdrawn. Richard had a criminal history, 14 convictions between 1999 and 2004 for offenses like larceny, welfare fraud, theft, and public order violations. In December 2002, he served a month in Cork prison for welfare fraud. On Sunday, March 19, 2017, Tina and Richard attended a car boot sale in Carrigtwohill, County Cork, about 35 kilometers from their U-Haul home. Tina was upbeat, buying a stunning black jacket, a dress, and pricey perfume. She chatted with her friend John Keoghan, who teased her about meeting someone else. Tina shot back firmly, "I have one man only. I love him so much, and I wouldn't touch another man." These were the final words anyone outside her home heard from her. On Friday, March 24, 2017, 4 days after Tina was last seen, Richard drove 43 kilometers to Fermoy Garda Station, skipping his local U-Haul station, to report her missing. Garda Connor Gately described Richard as matter-of-fact, not overly emotional. He explained he'd waited because he figured Tina needed space to clear her head and might have gone to stay with family in Fermoy. Richard claimed that on Monday morning, March 20th, he'd prepared breakfast for Tina around 9:20 a.m., tea, toast, and his special fruit and yogurt. She asked him to drive to Aldi in Dungarvan, 30 kilometers away, for fish and parrot food for Valentine. He said he left around 10 o'clock or 10:30 a.m. and returned at noon, only to find her gone, along with 2 suitcases and €26,000 in cash, supposedly hidden in an attic box. When he learned her family hadn't seen her, he showed mild concern, but insisted she'd left willingly. The case started as a routine inquiry into someone who'd walked out, not a full missing persons probe. It wasn't until May 11, 2017, nearly 2 months after her disappearance, that Richard filed an official missing persons report with Garda James Butler, supplying photos for media appeals. But Richard didn't stop there. He launched an extraordinary media blitz that lasted years. From June 2017 to March 2018, he gave at least 14 recorded interviews, making himself readily available to TV, radio, and newspapers. He appeared on RTE's Crime Call, Primetime, Primetime Investigates, TV3 Virgin Media News, Ireland AM, The Ray Darcy Show, Cork's Red FM, and more. His most iconic moment was on July 25, 2017, on RTA Crime Call. In a tearful display, he stared into the camera and said, "Tina, come home. Is nobody mad at you? My arms are open. The pets miss you. I just can't go on not knowing. Just ring the Garda. Let people know you're all right." To viewers, it looked like the desperate cry of a loving husband. On July 14, 2017, he told TV3 News, "I never lifted a finger to her in 28 years together." He repeatedly claimed Tina would resurface or contact him eventually. He offered to take a lie detector test, but backed out when offered one live on radio, citing fatigue and illness. Throughout, Richard spun a tale of himself as a devoted husband caring for an unstable wife. He alleged that after her brother Tom's death in 2012, Tina grew troubled and violent. This was flatly contradicted by family, friends, and medical records. In the days and weeks after Tina's disappearance, Richard's actions raised suspicions. On March 30, 2017, just 10 days after she vanished, he texted her cousin, Sarah Howard, offering her a chest freezer. "Sarah, do you want our big chest freezer?" The next day, he listed it on donedeal.ie. Large chest freezer, free to take away. Working perfect, just needs a clean. By late April and early May 2017, Richard was hawking Tina's belongings at car boot sales, the same spots where she'd thrived. He sold her clothes, Dr. Martens boots, bags, and accessories. When friends inquired about Tina, he spun elaborate fibs. She had a severe infection from dry rot in the house and was in England for treatment. She was gravely ill, having lost 4 stone. She suffered from a serious respiratory ailment and couldn't attend sales anymore. The items Tina had bought on that final Sunday, the black jacket and dress, hung unworn over a door in their living room. She never got to enjoy them. The first major Garda search of 3 Grattan Street happened on June 7, 2017, less than 3 months after Tina's disappearance. Sergeant John Sheehy had suspected foul play by late May. A search warrant was granted on the grounds that Tina might have been harmed or incapacitated in a crime. Gardaí spent about 12 hours on a thorough formal search. Garda Cathal photographed the home extensively. The images would later prove chilling. Relatively new, unpainted stairs, fresh plasterboard on the stair side, and a new red brick wall beneath the stairwell. Forensic scientist Dr. Edward Connolly used luminol to test for blood throughout the house. It glows blue in the presence of blood, but found none. No traces in the living room, on the stairs, or in Richard's car. Lacking blood evidence or other violent signs, the team collected items like Richard's laptop and mobile devices, but didn't break through the concrete under the stairs. No cadaver dog was used, no excavation. The house was filthy. Dog feces on floors and furniture, unwashed dishes piled high, and a filthy birdcage. In the following years, Gardaí conducted extensive searches across County Cork. On August 19, 2017, the Garda Water Unit, Irish Coast Guard, and Army scoured Youghal Harbour at low tide and scrubland at Gulf Links Road. In March 2018, a major effort focused on Mitchell's Wood in Castlemartyr, with over 60 Gardaí, Army engineers, and cadaver dogs combing the 40-acre woodland for nearly 2 weeks. A no-fly zone was set, but nothing turned up. The investigation pursued over 400 leads. There were 60 to 65 reported sightings of Tina in Ireland and abroad, all checked, all false. Over 170 witness statements were gathered. 100 hours of CCTV footage reviewed. The case stalled. Then, in August 2021, everything shifted. Superintendent Anne-Marie Toomey took over as Senior Investigating Officer, her first in that role. With Detective Garda Dave Kelleher as Incident Room Coordinator, a fresh team from Cork North and West Division did a full cold case review. They revisited all 400 leads, reanalyzed CCTV, and re-examined the 170-plus statements. Crucially, they finally scrutinized the digital devices seized in 2017. The laptop, untouched for years, was analyzed by Detective Garda Dave Kelleher in late 2021. On March 24, 2017, the day Richard reported Tina missing, 4 days after her disappearance, someone searched for quicklime at 9:08 p.m. and watched a YouTube video titled "Quicklime and Water Reaction" twice. Quicklime, used in construction, also accelerates decomposition and masks odors in mass burials. Mobile phone data extracted in February 2022 delivered the next breakthrough. CCTV from Youghal Post Office showed Richard collecting social welfare at 11:10 a.m. on March 20th, not in Dungarvan as claimed, but in Youghal. Phone location data confirmed he returned home immediately and stayed there from about 11:10 a.m. to 12:50 p.m. This 100-minute window debunked his entire alibi. The text offering Sarah the freezer surfaced. Email and phone records contradicted nearly every claim Richard had made. By February 2022, Superintendent Toomey concluded Tina Satchwell was deceased, killed unlawfully, but no body yet. In September 2022, she enlisted Dr. Niamh McCullough, a forensic archaeologist expert in locating hidden remains, to review the case. Dr. McCullough's September 2023 report was pivotal. Research shows domestic homicide killers often fabricate stories and file deceptive missing persons reports. Female victims are usually disposed of near home, most within 1 kilometer. The structural changes in the 2017 photos were alarms: new stairs, plasterboard, brick wall. She urged an invasive search with ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs. On the evening of October 10, 2023, Garda E arrived at 3 Grattan Street with contractors, excavators, and a forensic team. Richard Satchwell was arrested on suspicion of murder at 5 p.m. The search kicked off with Fern, a Springer Spaniel cadaver dog, and her handler. Fern zeroed in on the stair area immediately. Detective Garda Brian Barry, a ballistics and forensics expert, spotted something key. The red brick wall looked amateurishly built. Under strong lights, they peeled back the old 1970s-style lino flooring and spotted a rectangular patch of fresher concrete. Around 9 p.m. on October 11, 2023, they jackhammered through. At about 64 centimeters deep, they hit black plastic sheeting. Excavation halted. The forensic archaeologist was summoned. The next morning, a human hand emerged. Slowly, carefully, the burial was unearthed. At 11:30 a.m. on October 12, 2023, Assistant State Pathologist Dr. Margot Bolster arrived. By noon, Richard was rearrested at a U-Haul bus stop. That evening, he was charged with murder. When the charge was read, he gave a cryptic response: guilty or not guilty. The remains went to Cork University Hospital. On October 13, 2023, dental records from Tina's Fermoy dentist confirmed the identity. The body buried under the stairs for 2,396 days was Tina Satchwell. Her Tweety bird tattoo remained visible on her chest. In the left pocket of her dressing gown lay her wallet, holding her public services card and store loyalty cards. After the discovery, Richard's story flipped. He told Garda E a new version. He came in from the garden shed and found Tina at the stair base, scraping plasterboard with a chisel. She lunged at him with it, aiming for his head. He fell back with her on top. In self-defense, he grabbed her dressing gown belt and held it at her neck until she went limp and died in his arms. He cradled her body for 20 to 30 minutes as their dogs, Ruby and Heidi, licked at her. He placed her on the couch for a day or two. When the dogs kept approaching, he moved her to the chest freezer in the shed on March 22nd or 23rd. It was unplugged, used for storage, not freezing. Richard said he then dug under the stairs in the sitting room, working robotically from dawn to dusk, knuckles bleeding. The grave was unusually deep, 64 to 84 centimeters, about 2.5 feet, in sandy soil. On March 26, 2017, Mother's Day, he retrieved her body from the freezer and buried her wrapped in black plastic sheeting they'd used at car boot sales. She lay face down, still in her dressing gown over pajamas. The belt was looped oddly, over her left neck, under her right shoulder and arm, under her body, knotted at her chest, not through the loops. He claimed he wanted to bury her respectfully. He said he bought roses but settled for tulips on Mother's Day, tossing them into the grave. They weren't found. He placed her wedding ring in her bathrobe pocket so she'd know the hand that killed her also loved her. The ring wasn't located. He filled the grave with soil, poured about 1 meter, 3 feet, of concrete over it, built the red brick wall beside the stairs, and added plasterboard to hide it. Richard Satchwell's trial opened in late April 2025 at Dublin's Central Criminal Court, lasting 23 days with over 50 witnesses. He pleaded not guilty to murder. Lead prosecutor Geraldine Small called him an arch manipulator, brazen to the end. The forensic evidence was overwhelming. Dr. Margot Bolster found no fractures on Tina's skeleton. The quicklime search 4 days post-disappearance showed guilt awareness. CCTV and phone data exposed his lies. Most damning were his 14 media clips shown to the jury of his tearful pleas, declarations of love, and insistence she was out there. Defense counsel Brendan Green argued lack of intent. Richard didn't testify. The jury deliberated from the afternoon of May 27 2025, for 9 hours and 28 minutes over 3 days. At 12:25 p.m. on May 30th, they returned. Guilty of murder, unanimous. Richard showed no emotion. Behind him, Tina's family sobbed. Mr. Justice Paul McDermott handed down the mandatory life sentence. Outside court, Sarah Howard spoke for the family. Tina was a kind, loving, and gentle soul who loved her animals as they loved her. And that's how we want her remembered. Today, as a family, we finally have justice for Tina. When Tina's remains were found in October 2023, over 200 people attended a U-Haul vigil, many bringing dogs in tribute to her animal passion. Half her ashes were interred with her brother Tom, the other half with her grandmother Florence. The case succeeded through persistence. When Superintendent Anne Marie Toomey took charge in August 2021, her systematic re-examination of every detail brought Tina home. Tina now rests with her brother Tom and grandmother Florence. She's remembered as she was, kind, gentle, loving, with an infectious smile and passions for fashion and animals. She deserved better than the life Richard trapped her in, and certainly better than the death he inflicted and the grave under the stairs where he hid her. But thanks to her family's bravery in speaking out, she will be remembered.